Let's talk about men and masculinity and sexual assault. Okay. We've talked about the perversion of masculinity by MAGA and the manosphere. We've talked about how young men have, to a degree, moved in the direction of Trump. And related to this is the reality of Donald Trump's 2024 cabinet nominations being filled with accused sexual predators, accused rapists, cheaters, and people accused of covering up sexual assault. And this really reveals much more than just political loyalty. This reminds us of the pattern of when we look at a pattern of appointees tied to sexual abuse and harassment and enabling such behavior, when we see that it's at minimum no big deal to Trump and MAGA, and at worst seen as a feature rather than a bug, it's a major red flag about the direction that this country is going to go under the leadership of Donald Trump. So I'm talking about Elon Musk. I'm talking about Matt Gaetz, Pete Hegseth, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Linda McMahon, current former nominees, non-nominated advisors like Musk, who just gets to kind of hang around. Their histories align with this broader ideology that normalizes, and you could even argue rewards, abuse of power, of which sexual assault or covering it up are examples. This isn't just about individual behavior. It's about a culture. It's about a worldview that values dominating other people, ruthlessness, control above all else. And if it's control over women or control over marginalized groups, and that could be controlling what medical services women have access to, or it could literally be sexual assault, as many of Donald Trump's former and current nominees have been accused of. You've got Matt Gaetz. Gaetz was poised to take one of the most powerful positions in the Justice Department, Attorney General, despite numerous allegations involving underage girls, statutory rape, trafficking, etc. And Gaetz ultimately withdrew the nomination, and he said, oh, these claims are becoming a distraction. But behind the scenes, it became clear that even the Republican Senate was not going to confirm the guy. Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Trump's choice for Secretary of Health and Human Services. He has his own baggage. He's maybe more known for conspiracy theories and controversial rhetoric and talking about ivermectin and raw milk. But his nomination is one that is also under a cloud of allegations of abusive behavior. And again, it's a pattern. These aren't aberrations. It's a large number of these people. Pete Hegseth, who Trump wanted to be defense secretary, significant public scrutiny for accusations of sexual harassment. Even his own mom in a letter referring to him in that way. Then she tried to come and clean up the mess. His defenders have said, these are political smears. This stuff happened a long time ago. He's a different person at 44 than he was at 37, nonsense like this. But again, it just symbolizes the total disregard by MAGA for accountability. It's not only men, right? I mean, you go to Linda McMahon, former head of the Small Business Administration, wrestling lady, one of the few women in Trump's circle. Her legacy includes enabling a completely toxic work culture during her tenure as CEO of WWE. And there were widespread allegations that female employees were being mistreated rampantly, and she looked the other way. Elon Musk, another example, where there are all sorts of allegations for a Tesla employee that he was inappropriately this and that. None of the individual allegations will surprise you. It's just person after person after person. This is the worldview that Trump embodies and champions, which is a celebration of dominance and wealth and power, scorning empathy and seeing anything short of this display of power as weakness and beta energy and whatever. There's an interesting article by Jennifer Berdahl, professor of sociology at the University of British Columbia, where she calls this hegemonic masculinity. This is not that often meaningless and very overused toxic masculinity that we often don't define. This is more systemic, okay? This is about justifying male control over women. It might involve coercion. It might involve violence. It might involve legislation. That's the totality of it. And it does well in environments where dominance is rewarded. Weaknesses are seen as something to be punished for. If you fall outside of the narrow definitions of power, is it because you're a woman or you're poor or you're the type of man who is marginalized or the wrong religion or whatever, you're kind of relegated to the sidelines. And what Trump and MAGA want, what the worldview permeates through to Trump's base, is that this is the model. And therefore, these allegations, they're not things to look at and say, damn, do we really want this number of accused sexual assaulters in positions of power? That might be the right instinct. That's not the instinct. The instinct for MAGA is these are subtle ways to show that these are powerful men. They'll take what they want, but also, it allows them to further the victim ideology, which is, I don't even know that I believe this stuff because they're just making it up. They're making it up in order to smear candidates. They're doing what they did to Kavanaugh, as we saw in that interview with Pete Hegseth and Megyn Kelly. It is dominance rather than decency that is their currency. And so many of us see the nominations and we say, how could these people possibly be who Trump picks? But if you understand their currency and what they value, obviously Trump picked these people. Trump's accused of dozens of similar instances himself. Now, so far, the partial kind of saving grace has been that it seems that the Republicans in the Senate aren't willing to confirm just anybody. They're willing to confirm a lot of unqualified people, but they're not willing to confirm just anybody. And maybe that's what will save us from as disastrous a Trump cabinet as we would potentially otherwise have. As Trump's inauguration approaches, we're already seeing what the next 4 years are going to look like. A Trump campaign official said Pennsylvania election workers will face jail time for counting mail-in ballots with technical errors like missing dates, part of the right's attempt to sow election distrust and weaponize the courts. This story is almost exclusively being covered by right-leaning news outlets spinning the narrative to villainize the election workers, so the public probably has a skewed perspective on what's really happening. That is, unless you use Ground News, which lets you see every side to every story like this one. Ground News is an independent platform that exposes the biases of media outlets by showing you who owns them, what angle they're taking on each story, and what hidden agendas might be lurking in the background. Ground News's daily briefings are a great way to stay informed without feeling overwhelmed. It gives a quick breakdown of the day's most critical stories from every angle. Go to ground.news/Pacman for 50% off their unlimited access Vantage plan. It's their biggest sale of the year, and the link is in the description.